Welcome to Dune Chapter by Chapter. I'm Dominic, and in this video I'm going to be discussing Chapter 10. So I'll give a quick recap of the chapter that I'm going to be talking about here. So in this chapter, Lady Jessica finds a sealed off room that has a sealed environment into it. So she goes inside and discovers that this whole room has all these plants and all this plant life, flowers and trees and everything being kept alive in here with tremendous amounts of water. Like an ungodly fortune's worth of water on Arrakis. And so in this room, she discovers a message left behind by Lady Fenring, warning Jessica that there is a traitor in House Atreides. Then Paul shows up, and the message also warns her that there's going to be an attempt on Paul's life. So Paul shows up with the Hunter Seeker and shows it to his mother, then dunks it in the water with the hopes that'll completely short it out and there's no chance of it coming back. And then they discuss the possibilities of who the traitor can be. And then one of the guards shows up at the room and lets them know that they caught the operator of the Hunter Seeker, and this person had sealed themselves, sounds like inside of a wall, like months before the Atreides showed up there. And they were the ones operating it, but they died before they could interrogate this person. And so they discuss back and forth who the traitor could be, and then they discover they see some lights off in the distance, signals like lights being used to broadcast signals. They think it's like low stars first, but but it has like a blinking pattern, and then there's other yellow lights like responding back and forth. So then they surmise, well, this must be the Harkonnens. So that's chapter 10 in a nutshell. So some of the things I want to discuss is, I'll start with the room. So this room is like a huge, gross display of overindulgence with wealth on this planet, because all this 10 by 10 room, as it's described in the book, can provide water for thousands of people on Arrakis and keep thousands of people alive. And it's something that I would assume the Fremen would really hate and would really disgust them, because they have such water conserving ways about them. And so this room was built by Count Fenring and Lady Fenring, and it was kind of left there they left it behind and almost made it as like a gift to Lady Jessica. Here, we leave this room to you. We got a lot of enjoyment out of it. Hopefully you do too. And then, but it conceals in it like a secret message. And the other thing this room illustrates the huge gulf between the ruling elites, like the great houses, and the common folk, like the poor people in this book. Like huge gulfs like this. Like no one could even remotely possibly afford anything like this unless you're part of a royal family or a great house or something like that. And so when she finds the message, now Lady Jessica, she starts to question, well, maybe the message is just meant to sow distrust in amongst the Atreides. Maybe it's not like a real message. Maybe there isn't a real traitor. So there's so much backstabbing and cutthroat politics in the world of Dune that it's hard to take anything one way or the other. But they have to go forward with the assumption that they do have a traitor in their midst, because it would be too dangerous not to. But then they also have to keep in mind that it could just be something, that message could be left behind just to make them think there's a traitor. Now, the one thing about this, when she finds the message, that every time I read it, I always found it a little bit confusing. I still kind of find it confusing, or it just makes me question why. Because it says that Hawat was over the room because she saw his marks about the room or whatever, but how did he overlook this message is what I'm curious about. Because he overlooked the table, and he would see, obviously he would have found it was just a message written on a notepad, and that kind of directed to the fern underneath. But even with the cryptic ending, like, wouldn't Hawat have picked up on that and brought that to Lady Jessica's attention, or anyone in the Great House? Like, hey, we got this really suspicious secret message left here, or some kind of suspicious message with this cryptic tone to it left behind in this room. Maybe we should look into this. I find that one I always found a little bit puzzling, why he didn't say anything about it, or why there's no mention of him having picked up on it. Or maybe it's where the Harkonnens are trying to point the make it seem like Lady Jessica is the traitor to Hawat. Maybe Hawat didn't want to say anything about that message because he wanted to see if Lady Jessica would discover it and how she would react to the message. That's what I find interesting. Or either that, or he read the message and he didn't want to say anything about it because he couldn't really say anything at that point because, maybe Lady Jessica has more pull in the family than him, so he can't just directly come out and accuse her. And I don't remember if this gets touched upon or explained further in the book, I'm not sure, but it's something I've always questioned about that. And the other thing is Paul starts to question, well, maybe Hawat's too old, maybe he's overlooking stuff, maybe his game isn't there. But then just, out of the Atreides are so full of honor and pride that, well, they don't want to come out and question him on it because they don't want him feel shamed or anything. And Lady Jessica says to Paul, well, don't worry, he's going to be feeling enough shame already because he let that hunter-seeker slip past his, attention. So, there's nothing going to get through this house now. And then they kind of discuss who could be the traitor. But they immediately discount Yui because of the message. It says either a lieutenant or a comrade, and not no one's really even considering Dr. Yui, probably because of the, imperial conditioning that he has. But the other thing about this chapter, it kind of drives home that life for these people, really suck. I mean, they're royalty and they're in these great houses and they got all this political power and they got all this wealth. But at the same time, they're trapped, imprisoned by that same lifestyle because they can't really enjoy anything. Before they do anything, everything's got to be overlooked. Everything's got to be sniffed. Everything has potential danger to it. Like even this beautiful room that Jessica found, could have had all kinds of hidden dangers in it. Even the bedrooms, the ornate carvings, there's always hidden dangers in there. There's always that chance, or there's always that risk. You're constantly living with the knowledge that someone could assassinate you at any time for political power or any kind of gain like that. So they're really trapped inside this type of a lifestyle. So that would really suck. And the other thing they mention is the code that lights the Harkonnens using the lights, which I thought that was a cool idea, a really low-tech way of communicating, just flashing lights back and forth, because they can't use the regular communication systems because the Atreides have them all tapped, especially now that there was an attempt on Paul's life. And the other thing that's what I thought, well, this is not really just about this chapter, but about the book as a whole. Now, this is another short chapter, and the chapter before it was pretty short. But what I like about Dune, I like the way it's written, is the chapters are short. One thing that always bugged me is when you have books that are written with really long chapters. I find those really, that irritates me. That chapters that aren't even broken up into sub-chapters, because some chapters will have long chapters, but then there will be breaks within that chapter. So there's a spot for you to stop. So what I like about Dune is you could easily have read this chapter before bed, and it wouldn't have taken up much time, or even 2 chapters before bed, because that's me personally, anyway, that's my favorite reading time, is usually right before bed, a half hour before bed. I like to read for 30 minutes and then go to sleep. And I find that helps put me to sleep too, because reading makes me tired. But if I got a book with a big huge chapter in it, and there's no breaks in it, it's hard to I find it really hard to stop right in mid-action of what's going on in that chapter. So that's what I really like about Dune. It's got really short, digestible chapters in it. And there's other books that are written like that, The Expanse. That's what I like about their books, is their chapters are no more than 10 pages, so you can knock off a couple chapters before bed, and makes it more digestible, and you keep clipping along at a steady pace. So this is a pretty short chapter, short, probably about as long as what the last one was. So that's everything I got to say in this video. Let me know what you think in the comments section, and I will see you at the next one.